Rome didn't fall because of the barbarians. It fell because of math. Not swords, not invasions, but inflation, corruption, and an economy that grew so big it collapsed under its own weight. The Roman Empire didn't get conquered. It overextended itself to death. This is the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide. Today, we're going back nearly 2,000 years to the rise and ruin of the greatest economy the ancient world ever built. Because Rome, in Esse's story, isn't just ancient history. It's an early warning for every empire that thinks prosperity can last forever. Upbeat, powerful music swells. Rome was the world's first superpower, a trillion-dollar empire in today's terms. Its economy ran on a simple, brutal logic: conquest. Every new province meant a fresh injection of gold, silver, grain, and slaves. The more it conquered, the richer it became. Roads, the arteries of this empire, stretched from Britain to Syria. Trade ships, laden with goods, crisscrossed the Mediterranean, and marble flowed into the capital like water. By the 2nd century AD, Rome controlled a quarter of humanity. Its coins were the universal currency, trusted from the deserts of Arabia to the markets of Gaul. For a moment, it looked unstoppable, a perpetual motion machine of power and profit. But that was the problem. You see, Rome's immense wealth wasn't built on productivity or innovation. It was built on plunder. And when the conquest stopped, the math stopped working. By the 3rd century, the empire had reached its natural limits. The frontiers were stretched thin, defended by vast armies that cost more to maintain than they could ever earn from new territories. And yet, Rome had an entire system. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, officials, and pensioners who all expected to be paid. The bills were coming due, but the income stream had dried up. So the emperors turned to the oldest trick in the book: printing more money. Of course, they didn't have printing presses or central banks. They had mints, and so they cheated the metal. They began melting down their silver coins, the famous denarius, and mixing them with cheaper metals like copper and lead. Then they'd mint them again, pretending they were worth the same as before. It was quantitative easing, 1,700 years before the term even existed. And the results were catastrophic. In just 50 years, the silver content of the Roman denarius plummeted from nearly 90% to less than 5%. Imagine your dollar bill being worth only a nickel. Prices exploded. Confidence in the currency evaporated. The world's most trusted coin became junk metal. This hyperinflation didn't just hurt the poor, it broke the entire logic of the economy. Soldiers, paid in worthless coins, demanded higher and higher pay, often turning on the very emperors they were supposed to protect. Traders refused to accept the debased imperial coins, reverting to barter. Farmers, seeing the value of money disappear overnight, hoarded their grain instead of selling it for currency that would be worthless tomorrow. In some provinces, a loaf of bread cost 100 times more than it had just a decade earlier. The economic chaos was tearing the fabric of society apart. The empire responded the only way governments often do, with more control. In 301 AD, Emperor Diocletian issued the Edict on Maximum Prices. This was a sweeping decree that set a legal cap on the price of thousands of goods, from wheat and wine to shoes and services. It was meant to stop inflation dead in its tracks. Instead, it killed the market. Why would a merchant sell his goods at a legally mandated loss? They simply stopped selling. Storefronts shuttered. Farmers took their produce underground. The black market was born, thriving in the shadows of the state's misguided policies. Rome had created a paradox. The more it tried to control the economy, the faster that economy collapsed. As faith in money eroded, the empire turned to its last resort: taxes. But this wasn't a progressive tax on the wealthy elite. The burden fell squarely on the producers, the small farmers, craftsmen, and shopkeepers who were the real backbone of the Roman economy. They were crushed under a tax burden they could no longer pay in a currency that had no value. Many simply abandoned their land, their workshops, and fled, hoping to disappear into the cities or the countryside. The government's solution was as desperate as it was tyrannical: make their jobs hereditary. If your father was a farmer, you were legally bound to be a farmer. If he was a baker, you were chained to that profession for life. It was the birth of economic feudalism born out of fiscal desperation. Rome, once the symbol of freedom and commerce, had turned into a rigid, oppressive command economy. As the tax system grew more complex and punitive, so did the bureaucracy that managed it. By the 4th century, there were more tax collectors in the empire than there were soldiers in some legions. Every province became a labyrinth of paperwork and corruption. The state was devouring its own economy, feeding an ever-growing administrative machine that produced nothing of value. Rome was no longer expanding outward. It was consuming itself from within. The empire had become a corporation too big to fail and too inefficient to survive. In the end, Rome didn't collapse from a single, decisive invasion. It collapsed from exhaustion. Citizens stopped believing in the currency. Soldiers stopped believing in the state that couldn't pay them. Even the provinces stopped sending taxes, hoarding what little wealth they had left to protect themselves. By the time the Visigoths sacked the city in 410 AD, Rome was already a hollowed-out shell, financially bankrupt, morally exhausted, and structurally broken. The world's richest empire had become its own greatest liability. Rome's downfall wasn't an accident, it was an equation. Endless spending, endless wars, endless bureaucracy. Every empire that believes it can grow forever, print money without consequence, or tax its way out of decline eventually learns the same hard lesson. When money loses its meaning, society loses its memory. Inflation doesn't just destroy savings, it destroys trust, the one thing an empire or any society absolutely cannot live without. Rome didn't fall in a single day. It fell coin by coin, decree by decree, and year by year, until the system finally gave way under its own weight. History doesn't repeat, but it always collects interest. Rome just happened to be the one to pay the bill first. This is the financial historian, because history has the answers, if you know where to look. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time.